You got your shawl on, Robin? Oh, good, because we're live, fellas and lady. Welcome, America, to the best hour of your day, assuming your day is very, very mediocre. This is the Eric and Rodney Show with Robin and the very special guest, the PEO Queen. Rodney, do you want to do the introduction, please?
I will. It's the PEO Queen, Cassandra Anderson, has joined us today. Welcome, Cassandra.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we have the PEO Queen and Rod, the PEO God. If only people knew what PEO was, we'd have a very entertaining show.
And we have Robin back with his shawl.
Thank God. The universe is aligned. So obviously everyone's seen this show. It's the biggest thing on the internet outside of Tucker Carlson's lovely program. But we're going to cover the news before we get into the PEO Queen Hour. And then we're going to share our opinions on it because America demands it. Robin, what is in the news today, my shawl, the friend?
All right.
He's the shawl man.
The shawl man? It's like a shaman.
You guys are never going to stop picking on the shawl. Huh?
It's like a sexy shaman. Go ahead.
It's a great thing to go if you're going to the movies, you know, because the movies are always so cold. You got to bring a sweater.
It's great to co-host a daily Lincoln live show. It's just great.
He's got on his Uggs.
It's very cozy. You look cozy. All right, what do we got?
Okay, so the first segment is actually really great. Colombia now has a invasive minority group, and it's not what you think. Cocaine hippos. So this next sentence is going to be even more absurd. But all of these hippos are descendants of 3 females and 1 male hippo that were illegally imported by the late drug cartel leader Pablo Escobar. Mm-hmm. After he died, they all escaped from the estate and they fled to the Magdalena River, where there are now more than 200 of them terrorizing the local flora and fauna.
Oh, it's like a new movie. The guy that did the Cocaine Bear can like have a sequel.
Hippos. Exactly. Here's the issue, and again, it's a misleading headline. Cocaine hippos is bullshit. They're Christian fundamentalist hippos because they're having all these goddamn kids. They're like the Duggars. You know what I mean? It's like it's 1 male hippo. Originally, Pablo had 4 hippos, 1 male and 3 females. So it's a weird sex cult, just like Christian fundamentalism. And so it has nothing to do with cocaine. Their father did cocaine. Who gives a shit? But you know what I mean? It's 215 hippos and counting. It's not.
Wait, there's 215 of them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 10 or 15.
No, because this one Jim Bob hippo had all these goddamn.
Oh, I see. Now here's the question though. So the hippos aren't on cocaine. That's not.
No.
Okay. I thought the cocaine.
So
I thought
we're
the hippos
literally
were
just
doing
putting the
cocaine.
word cocaine in there because
Yes.
Colombia's in the sentence.
Got
It's
it.
clickbait because their owner did a bunch of coke. Like,
Because I thought that the hippos were terrorizing the locals for cocaine.
no, that would have been a much
That's
better
what I
story.
was confused. Right. Okay.
I wish. It was mostly clickbait.
Yeah. But calling those cocaine hippos is like calling my children cocaine children. Like they're not, you know what I mean? Like, all right, I do it. But these fucking hippos have never done the cocaine. Did you read what the possible solutions are? What's that?
It's not killing them, is it?
The cocaine?
No. The hippos.
Oh no. So the country is anti-killing the hippos.
Okay.
They've come up with 2 solutions. One is contraceptive by darts. So this would take 45 years and cost $850,000. All right, so that's on the table. The other option is capturing them, castrating them. That would take 52 years and cost $530,000. So you really got to run the numbers here. There's another problem.
532,000. I mean, here's what they should do: call the U.S., tell them they need $1 billion, get it sorted. Give it to them.
It's funny that you bring in the United States because you're never going to guess who the only country that has hippo contraceptives are.
It has to be the U.S.
God bless America.
Are they on Amazon?
They're on Etsy right next to the psilocybin. People give us a lot of shit for being the world police, but when you need hippo contraceptives, where do you go? Robin? You don't go to the Philippines, baby. They come to the U.S.
Go to Jeff Bezos and Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it nice? Robin, that line about the invasive species was fucking funny.
Yeah, no, I'm quite proud of it.
No, you should...
Yeah, invasive. That's nice.
You said an invasive minority species. Oh boy. Only the Filipino could get away with that shit.
Well, it's also absurd to think that like there's an entire scientific team that came up with hippo contraceptives. That's kind of absurd.
Well, here's the other thing. They've never used hippo contraceptives by darts, so they don't know if it's going to work. So this is another thing.
Excellent.
It might cost $850,000. It might cost $1 million. I don't know.
That's a good point. Here's what I was just thinking about is there a group, like, I wonder, like, what do you go to school for to be able to say that you're an authority on how to stop a cocaine hippo? Like what, like, is that statistics, finance, art history? What are we looking at here? English major?
I think you have to be multifaceted.
I mean,
so maybe you didn't even go to school.
Yeah. So about the mean hippos, only one. So somebody killed a rogue hippo, and then all people like posed together with it, like they'd killed a trophy, like a lion or some shit. The country got very mad at this. So this is why we're exploring contraceptives and castration.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it works out.
I don't want to get too big. I don't want to get too granular here. But if you castrate a hippo, that's going to be, you need bolt cutters, I would imagine.
Well, apparently it's only $530,000. I mean, that sounds cheap. I was thinking the going rate was at least a quarter of I was thinking at least $1 million.
But I wonder how like they would actually fiend in the wild. Because like, you know how dogs can sense if like other dogs are neutered, right? So it's like more difficult for them. Like they get much more like hyper, you know, if anything, I don't know. I mean, they make much more hyper aggressive. So it's like, that's why so many shelters or like in overnight boarding places won't take dogs that, you know, are not neutered or spayed, right? Because it's the other dogs can sense it and they like go crazy.
Neutered or spayed? Why are we having
Listen, I'm in agreement. I'm just saying, like, I wonder if that's a problem, though, like doing that and then releasing. I mean, because they're such aggressive animals, you know, like if the other males could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it would be like one main hippo, the hippo god.
Yeah, well, right. The guy would probably be shunned, and he'd be like, you know, like can't reproduce.
I didn't know that animals get more hyper when they get castrated. That's because they're not getting laid, I would imagine, right?
Well, no, actually, if they are getting aggressive, actually doing that actually calms them down. But that, I mean, it's a different subject. It's more so that the reason it's not like boarding places just don't want to accept dogs that aren't neutered. It's because when a dog that's not neutered comes in and all the other dogs are, all the other dogs that aren't go like can sense it. And like, you know, there's a whole bunch of different reactions, but they're definitely over, like they get over hyperactive.
What if they were also on cocaine? We don't know. We don't have the numbers on
hope that no animals are on cocaine.
except for the bears, right?
Except for the bears are taking all the good coke.
Yes.
Son of the Colombian bears.
Would anyone go to watch that movie? I just can't. I don't know.
Actually, I have watched it.
How was it?
You have? Was it good?
Yeah. So when I was away, I was really bored, and I watched it one day. It was horrendous.
Cocaine Bear was horrendous.
It was terrible.
I mean, what else would you possibly expect? Is this stupid? They're running out of ideas.
The thing of it was, oddly enough, is that the bear literally could not die
because he was on coke.
Right.
Here's the thing. I haven't watched the show, but did the bear continue to do bumps throughout? Because you know the high goes away.
What happened was that every 15 to 20 minutes he would disappear and come back
to a bathroom.
They couldn't show that on screen.
Because I think the movie portrays it. He finds a bunch of cocaine and then he's crazy for the next 2 hours. That's not how this drug works.
No, it's not.
Well, good thing that didn't happen in today's day and age, though, because I mean, with this whole fentanyl thing, like,
I know.
I mean, I think that thing needs to be outlawed as it's poison. It just kills people. Like,
that is one way to get rid of the cocaine hippos is lace it with fentanyl. I know,
like they're putting it into the same class as a drug. Like, I mean, like, yes, people have had bad experiences on certain drugs and like maybe freaked out and died, but like super rare, right? Like you usually take a drug and like, you know, maybe a bad trip or experience, but you don't immediately die. I mean, I don't understand the difference between that and literally poisoning somebody.
Well, yeah. Well, why are you poisoning your customer base? This makes no sense. Like,
I 100% agree. But I don't think a lot of people know. You know, I mean, they're putting you like apparently you can put it on, and you can put it on a cloth and like, you know, I mean, it soaks into your hand. I mean, that's terrifying. Like, I think we need to put it like terrorism charges. So, like, if anyone is caught with it, I mean, they literally get charged with terrorism, like because this is getting out of control.
Yeah, it is.
Have you heard about Pablo Escobar's fentanyl alpacas?
No. Are you obsessed with Pablo Escobar? Oh, God.
All right. Now you want to move on to the next gem of a story?
Give it to us, Robin.
This is
okay. So this one's actually very silly, and I'd love to get a woman's perspective on it. So a man recently took his personal struggle to a subreddit called AITA, or Am I the A-hole? Where he explained that his family has a tradition that during a reunion, the men of the family socialize and the women cook. So he asks the Redditors, is it okay if the girlfriend is asked to play a more traditional role this time?
Wait, really quick, like we can actually still access this Reddit because there is a big movement happening on Reddit right now that I think we should just mention, but power to the people. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, it's still there. So he argues it's in everyone's favor to just play along with the tradition, but she said it is unacceptable, and if she has to, she will not be going.
Wait, what's going on in Reddit?
Tradition can mean so many different things, right? Like some families have some weird ass traditions, but like, what are we saying here? Like, who goes over to somebody else's house and is asked to like cook the whole meal, right? But at the same time, like anyone that gets a meal cooked for them, male or female, should probably offer to like help with the dishes or clean up. So I'm not. I mean, what is she being asked to do laundry at the mother's house?
No, she's asked to help cook.
It goes a little deeper because his argument is that all the women that have come over before and who have refused get shunned by the chicks in the kitchen.
But refused what? Do we have any, like, what are traditional, what is he asking her to do? Like, cook. I guess I'm not
because all the chicks go in the kitchen and cook and the guys just hang out. And if they.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, honestly, in my opinion, I think he just sold it wrong. Like, hey, if you want to bond and like talk to my family, I mean, the females are in the kitchen chatting and like, I mean, because let's be real, even if you have a humongous kitchen, there can't be too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, people are doing stuff. I mean, you might be able to like sit there and peel potatoes, but you're not like the person that's mainly in charge is running the show. So I just feel like, I don't know why he phrased it that way. Like he should.
I agree with you, but this sounds like some plantation shit because it says big family, they're all close, and it's his great grandfather's estate. So I think this is a big ass house. But here's the other thing.
Like another way to phrase it is like, you can come with me. That's totally fine. But you know, once you actually walk in there and it's only the males, and like this is their only time as family members to sit down and cut the shit and like talk, like. Wouldn't you rather be with all the females to bond with them at the same time? If that's the vibe, like, I
think under normal circumstances, yes, but he's sort of being threatening and going, if you don't do this, they're going to ostracize.
That's what I mean. He doesn't know, like, he's just sold this completely wrong. Like, I don't even think he would have needed to have this conversation. Like, I think that people that are, you know, are like, understand that you're in someone else's home, but it's also up to you. Like, it's not like I think if she wouldn't have gotten kicked out of that room, she probably would have vibed that like, okay, I want to go hang out and get to know the wives and, you know, get to know those other ones, like get to know everyone in the house. But like, you can tell if a room is like, you know, regardless of it, male, gender, like if you're at like a book club, right? Like people go to they like fiction or mystery, right? Like there's different items, like you're just kind of getting together in a conversation. But I think that his entire approach of making it seem like this is what she had to do was the dumb move. I mean,
well, I think that's an interesting perspective because I read it as some devious rich white guy shit. This is what we do. We go, listen, I'm not for it. Believe me, I hate my family. I hate this. But if you could just play nice and go make me a sandwich and talk to the chicks. And she's like, no, but he goes, no, just do it. And then after a few of these, now she's in the kitchen and now a new chick comes in and she sees that this chick doesn't have to make a sandwich. Now she's being rude and ostracizing. I think
look, it'd be different if like he was saying we need to like, you know, bring everybody over and it's your job to act as a hostess and like make all the food with no help and, you know, serve people by hand instead of allowing like a buffet. Like if someone tried to dictate how I'd be serving a meal when they're asking me to make the meal, then I'd be a little bit like offended, right? Like I'd be like, okay, I'm not here to serve. I don't like if I'm going to make the meal, happy to do that. Or if it's like we're making rounds here, like around the family houses and you trade off, but like you're not going to tell me how that meal will be served. But that's not entirely what happened. He's like trying to give, I mean, if again, he just approached it wrong. Like the vibe probably would have been read as soon as she got there. And it probably wouldn't even have been an issue if he didn't even bring it up in the first place.
That's true.
Another way to look at it, right, is that here's another option for him: is you should just go in and say, "Hey, Susie here wants to make you guys her favorite dish."
Well, you don't think the mothers
Take it away.
would have been more welcoming? Like they would have been like, "Oh yeah, come with us," you know. And then what are you going to be like? Is someone going to sit there and be like, "No"? I mean, if that's the case, then she probably wasn't the one. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So they got a doctor on this thing, and she laid out 4 reasons why it's very bad. She said it's insinuation if the woman doesn't do this that she's not good enough for this guy. She said my family's
When we
needs.
say doctor, I'm assuming a therapist. That's probably like promoting for patients, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Number 2, my family's needs are more important than ours. My family's views of me are more important to me than your needs. My family has the power to.
Is this his girlfriend or his wife?
This is a girlfriend.
Okay, then my family needs are more important than yours.
Oh shit!
What? Like you're not even in the family yet. But yeah.
Plus, to be fair, the family's making sandwiches, and this chick's just complaining about shit. So I'm going to default to the sandwich. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I was saying. It's not like she's being asked to come into someone else's kitchen and serve everybody. Like she's literally being asked to go hang out and get to know like his mother and like the other wives or something better. But whatever. I mean, I just think that anyone jumps on anything. Like I used to comment, like I'll give you an example. You know how there was those terrible, like whatever, the air in New York was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, I mean, it was just ridiculous. Like, oh my God, when I was landing, it was like so bad. But I grew up, in California. I mean, I haven't lived there since like, God, I think I moved out of there, moved back for a bit after New Zealand. And then I lived there for like a year or two, but in a long time. But I went to college at Chico, but that's also up in Northern California. So like an hour and a half from the capital, everyone around there that lived there was a firefighter or a volunteer firefighter. There's nothing but like wildfires, on accident, on purpose. So like we're used to that in California. So there's just so many big fires. Now, obviously California is not like a little metal can. So that's why like all the air was getting trapped there worse. But I made a comment on one of the news posts just because like all the news is just the worst air ever breathed and toxic. And like, you just don't see that when it's happening. The exact same scenarios have happened in Cali, right? So it's just anything that we can do now for ratings because cable news is just so over the top now to try to drive everyone. I made one comment about how this happens a lot. And it wasn't even shouting. I just go, this happens a lot in California with the wildfires, but like, I don't see the same crazy news, like, covering, even though the air has been just as toxic. And never again. I must have woke up the next day and I had like 50 people commenting on my comment. Cause this is clearly like what people want to do all day.
You know what you need to do? You got to go to this Reddit. You got to go right there. You just go, this chick needs to get in the kitchen. And then let's just
you know what I want to post? Like, do you guys have jobs? Like, or like, are you like, if you put this energy into actually like making better change for the world, we'd be so much in a better place. But we've like put all of our energy. Oh, this is a good example. So on Reddit, I don't know if you guys saw this. It was like a viral, I saw it on Instagram, but I think it went viral on TikTok. There was a software engineer that said that the trick to getting the answer you want on Reddit is to post the question and then to log in as someone else, like pretending you're somebody else and post the wrong response. Because once you do that, everybody wants to come over and like make comments about how they're right. Yeah. Right? And I was like, that's actually genius. It's sadly true. She's like, no one would respond to give me the answer. She's like, but as soon as I log in as a fake user and give the wrong answer, everybody wants to course correct everybody.
That's true.
That's the secret. That's the secret.
Everybody wants to be right.
The internet is vile. All right, what do we get next?
We should just start disagreeing with our guests so we get better answers. Okay. So the next story. Is anyone here a vegan?
No.
Okay. I was a vegetarian for 5 years. It was goddamn awful.
No, but I'm a big animal advocate, so I don't buy meat like from the grocery store. So my husband is a bow hunter. We eat venison, and then we we have some local farms. So I go to Green Pastures Farm for my chicken. And then the local farmers market when we pick up steak. So I don't want to support like anything I'm unsure of like where it came from.
Okay, well, I'm sure you're gonna have a great opinion on this one. So the USDA is now more strict with labeling rules. So this is after they've received numerous complaints from customers saying that they're just too lenient with the labeling terms, such as labeling them as humanely raised or antibiotic-free. So they are now requiring more documentation. And so they're exploring with antibiotic testing before they're allowing the labeling.
Well, I mean, I'm happy for it, but at the same time, like, how have we not come down on like the processed food industry? Like, I don't know.
Because it's profitable. This is another reason to hate libertarians. They don't like the USDA, but they tested cows raised without antibiotics on the labels. 42% had antibiotics in their DNA or whatever.
Yeah,
that's like half. And
I mean, agree, but I was technically I have a minor in anthropology, but I should have had a major. I just went to study overseas for a year and a half on it, but they wouldn't transfer all the credits. But my point is that our teeth are forward-facing meat eaters. But there is no denying that, right? Like, we literally biologically have forward-facing teeth to eat meat. Like, so I just feel like it's funny. I do want to crack down on all food industries so we can stop killing ourselves. Like, this wouldn't happen in the UK or at any other first world country. But I do think more of the problem is just the marketing of telling people, like, that this is good for your heart and this is like, healthy approved. There's like no, corn syrup, but then they just put a whole bunch of other ingredients that combined make corn syrup. You know what I mean? It's just, I think that world is more terrible than it's actually.
You could just say it's humanely raised, but there's no parameters for what humanely raised is. Like, most humans are not humanely raised. So you're being full of shit. You're pretending that
raised by a pack of wolves.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. This is very much in contrast to the Philippines. In the frozen section in the Philippines, we just have like one label. It just says beef.
Exactly. That's, I mean, like other countries, America literally kills itself. Like,
that explains your bullshit last meal answer. Because I had no idea that you have one kind of meat.
Yeah, so his last meal, Cassandra, was he wanted pan-fried steak. And I said, oh, great. That sounds good. And Eric said, what cut? And he goes, what do you mean what cut? I said, what are you talking about? Yeah. What is he, like, throw that in the microwave?
Yeah.
So I don't want to go off, but you have one section and it says beef.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not as labeled as America.
Well, you guys eat a lot of fish too, though, because you have such fresh fish.
Predominantly.
Are you eating different types of fish, or do you have one aisle that just says fish?
Okay, so the fish section is actually very well labeled. So the Philippines doesn't even have real cows. We have something. That's why we don't have cream cheese. We have something that's called water buffalo. So
you're not eating cows. You're eating. It's not.
Yeah.
So it's
wait until you have an American cow. It's gonna blow your fucking mind. Although I've never had a water buffalo, so I don't know if is it good.
It's subpar for sure.
That was tough, but
it's interesting. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So even in the Philippines, you have a labeling issue because it's not beef; it's water buffalo, which has to be something else, right?
Yeah. So all the beef in the Philippines is imported. And it's usually like the lower quality beef after all the restaurants have had their share of the good stuff.
Oh God! Considering what we're doing to beef, I would hate to know what we're giving you. That is gonna be some gross shit. Sorry, man.
Have you guys tried spam?
Have you had spam?
We do have spam. That's one thing that it's actually like the most popular on breakfast here.
Spam is good.
You know why that is? American soldiers go over there and trade that for.
That's true.
2 cans of spam gets you a nice ladyboy. So I've heard from the ladyboy.
I think you're talking about. Well, I feel like that's much more Thailand, but yes.
Oh no, it bleeds over.
No,
ladyboys
are there. Well.
They're an invasive species, just like cocaine hippos. They spread out. You put 3 ladyboys in the wild, and all of a sudden you get the Philippines.
Those are definitely the prettiest.
The hottest women in the world are Thai men. I think we all know that.
Dude, I can't even disagree.
That's like the best makeup artists in the world are men.
Asians in general, though, obviously have amazing aging genes.
Asians are good.
Believe it or not, Robin is 75.
I would honestly, you might even believe it.
Eat enough water buffalo. You wear enough
related just for food processing, but I want to shout out because I hope that we could all get. Isn't it annoying how, like, if you ever go to the grocery store, do you notice like all the sugar-free mango, the sugar-free stuff is like, or like, 0 sugar Sprite is always sold out, completely sold out because everyone wants that. Why has that not gone over to the bars? Like, I hate drinking when I go out now because it's just, there's barely any option. I mean, I can get a vodka tonic or something, but tonic water is gross. Like, it's just, there's no option to get anything tasty because it's just filled with so much sugar shit. And that's how you get hangovers. I'm like, can we like put a petition together to have like sugar-free juice chasers available in bars and restaurants?
That's a great idea.
I'm like, I don't know, restaurant has even adopted it. And it's crazy because it's clearly the most popular item.
Yeah, but I think the only problem there's a poison pill because 2 drinks in and I'm going to get a bloomin' onion anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit. Once I'm drunk, I'm like, where's the cocaine hippos?
But if you thought about it from a business perspective, right? Like, think of all the females that get their like fruity drinks. If you can actually just give that fruit with no additional like adds of sugar or this stuff that actually gives you the worst hangover, they would be more likely to bounce back and be back at the bar. So it's also in their best interest.
So then every night would be ladies' night.
Give people that big of headaches, you know? Just saying.
Interesting.
That's a good idea.
All right. I think we drove that one to the ground. What else do we have?
The next one.
Okay, so the next one we're talking about Elon Musk again.
Oh, for Christ's sakes. I'm so sick of this.
So,
I think I've heard of him. Go on.
Yeah. Music publishers have now begun to sue Twitter in federal court. So it's actually a big allegation. Because there is a rampant infringement of copyrighted music. So all social media platforms are now paying at least $100 million to just have a music license. So on top of that, we also have an entirely new problem, AI created music, which copies the voices of your favorite artists. And it's all over Twitter, it's all over YouTube, but Twitter hasn't paid yet, is the problem.
This is what I love about Twitter. So they do away with their content moderation team. They immediately get sued for lack of content moderation. You know, just, can we stop worshiping this moron? That's all I got on this. He's like the Kardashians, though. He knows enough to stay in the news constantly.
I don't even think Elon wants to be in the news as much as he is, but
no, I think he's hungry for
He's
it.
got to pony up 100 million. Is that it?
No. If he had paid 100 million, he would have been fine. Now he's getting sued for 250 million.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Then I think he just reaches out and says, "Listen, here's your 100. God bless.
Well,
you guys take care. Keep tweeting."
True that.
I do think Twitter
is comical to me how much like he did try. I mean, look, you could argue over Turkey or other like things, but he did try to like have full free speech and like. It's comical, like how come Zuckerberg has never been under any type level of this type of scrutiny from like a social perspective? I mean, that guy is the one monopolizing everything.
That's true.
We lost him to the metaverse.
He's gone now. I don't know. Facebook is not. Well, I think they have better content moderation. Well,
do they?
I don't know. I
You
don't
know what
know
I
why
think the
people-
problem is? Go ahead, Eric. But I think I have an idea of what I think it is too.
What is it?
I think the problem is that Elon is spread very thin. And I think that they attack him at Twitter because the other things are successful, where I think Zuckerberg only focuses on Meta and Facebook.
I mean, but it's hard to say just Meta and Facebook. Like he bought Instagram. He tried to buy Yelp. He bought like he's still monopolizing like the entire. Why can't you have any competition? But
he doesn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing too is I think from a personal perspective, after I made the jump from MySpace to Facebook, I'm not doing this again. I'm out. So even if there was competition, I'm not like, oh, I can't wait for another social media platform where I can put pictures and write shit about my kids. You know what I mean? I don't want to move. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna live here until I die. I don't give a fuck about TikTok. I'm not on Twitter. Like I just need one home. So even if there was competition,
and now it's LinkedIn Live.
Thank God. Thank God there's LinkedIn Live because here we are.
So I've never gotten to experience MySpace. Was it significantly different than Facebook?
You know it's still around. You should create an account.
It was the Wild West.
It's about MySpace.
Fox owns it now.
Song, when you went to someone's profile and you could choose the song you wanted, and then it like did the photos that were moving. So you could have like, I was in college, we'd have like Floating Down the River. We'd have like the coolest songs. I missed that.
And you could rank your friends. So there was a top 8 section. So you could, that was great.
That's right. It was the top 8. And then if you got bumped out of the top 8, it was like, yikes.
Yeah.
That's a horrible idea.
That's how a lot of people found out about getting divorced. They dropped their fucking.
But it was heavily supportive of local artists for music, So it did do a ton for local like artists that could never get in with any of the, especially back then. I mean, that's why so many of these guys have created their own, labels, because like they're just getting screwed over. But there was a lot of local artists that came up through Facebook, or sorry, through MySpace.
Remember Tom?
I miss
Yeah,
Tom.
the idol that just friggin' mic dropped out.
Yeah.
It disappeared.
And
We should
Christine
try to get him on
follow.
the podcast.
I was just going to say, we got to get Tom on the show.
Tom never tried to sell us anything. He just wanted us to have a good time and play our tunes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Learn a little bit of coding. I know. It was great.
Yeah, exactly. Draw some HTML on your page and be all
And
over it.
support local artists and businesses, which is nice. Going into local, I've actually been shocked that there hasn't been like a local only like type of, I mean, I know Amazon's tried to do it, but it's like not real, but how come no one's like launched an API like similar to Amazon, but only like for locally where you are? So like if you were going to search on your phone, like just like you kind of search for Yelp, like if you wanted to search for a restaurant, but you wanted to search for like, I need to go get a gift card, or I need to go pick up like tape or whatever. And like, it would only show you the hardware stores or the other stuff that were like right there, or you could just purchase it. And like, you could even purchase it from only like local businesses. And then you could buy a subscription, so you don't have to pay for shipping because it covers their costs. Like, I'm surprised that no one's done that, given all like the local business hype.
Wait, go on.
Right? Like, what if people flood there over Amazon? If you could have the same Prime shipping option, because I mean, you pay to be a Prime member, get that, so
Yeah, I'm a Prime.
I think people would be willing to pay even $100 more for the year. Like right now, it's like what, after taxes, it's like $150. Like people would probably be willing to pay $200 or something if they knew it was only being ordered from local stores.
Prime is $150
a year.
Yes, Jesus.
Yeah, but it's full and free shipping for everything, right? So it's easy. But that's what I mean. Like you could work that out. I think people would pay a little bit more for the year just to know that they only support local business.
What we could do is we could call the Postal Service, who's always, as you know, on the verge of bankruptcy, and strike a deal with them to give us some kind of deal like they did Amazon.
True.
I'll tell you, two organizations that are almost always bankrupt is the MTA in New York, and
Boston,
and the Postal Service,
and Trump, towers and his real estate.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. Those are the only things that are ever like completely like underwater, right? Every couple of months they come out and they go, "We got to raise the rates again for the railroad. Just make it $200 and leave it." Right?
This problem seems fixable.
Yeah, I have a couple of ideas, guys.
But before we get into this, we have one more story to cover, which is the greatest story of all time, because I'm so confused by this.
Yep. You are.
Well,
I thought you'd be the most knowledgeable. Okay,
no.
so
I understand. The outcome has confused me. Go ahead.
Okay. So we've actually covered this story multiple times, but we never really had like a dedicated segment for it. So we're talking about Bud Light. It has now lost its spot as the #1 best-selling beer in the U.S. So obviously this is following the boycotting after the campaign in April. Featured a transgender influencer, Dylan Mulnavy, and it just had poor taste and even worse timing. So now we have rising to the top a Mexican brand, Modelo Especial.
Modelo Especiales.
Who the fuck? I'm a borderline alcoholic. I've never had a Modelo. I feel so disconnected from the drink.
Really, I drink them. I keep the place in business.
You drink Modelo?
I'm not going to mix that a lot, but I drink those. I like Coronas or Modelos. But honestly, if I'm going to be like, the only time I drink like beer that's like watery like that is definitely, I float down the river a lot. So like I'm a big like lake or, being on the lake. I like to wakeboard, which is why I'm, having the house on the lake. But so my boat dock and everything. I'm not a big ocean person. Like I don't, I'll go in, but if I'm at a nice place, I'd rather chill by the pool with the ocean view. But I'm a big lake person. And honestly, I like Coors Light. It's easy to drink.
Yeah, but is Modelo in the same? Is it just shitty yellow fizzy water? Like, Rodney, explain to me.
No, it's similar to Corona.
It's very much like Corona.
It's very similar to Corona.
Except it's there's no light, so it's like it's a light beer, but it's not like Michelob Ultra or Bud Light. Like I think they have like a couple of carbs and maybe 100 calories. It's like I don't know, maybe 200 calories. It's good. It's good, but it's like
because I live in the elitist, like we're IPAs up here. I've never, ever seen somebody drink a Modelo, and now it's the #1 beer in the country. That's bad shit.
Wait, so I'm gonna ask because I've never actually had a Bud Light, but how is it that Bud Light is #1 if everyone claims that it tastes like crap?
Because Coors and Miller also taste like shit, and that's a reason
everybody loves shitty beer.
That's not true. I mean, it's more so because it really had a deep following in like the flyover states, which are very heavily beer drinkers, So I think that
I don't think that's nice to say, the flyover
I'm just
state.
saying, but think about how, like, if you grew up on something, if you have, okay, even soda, right? Like, if you actually drink like a soda when you have not, like, don't drink soda at all, like, burns your throat. That shit doesn't taste good. It's like, let's think about people that start smoking cigarettes. Like, you have to force your body to take that cigarette because it does not want it. Like, and it's hard to say, but Bud Light was obviously cheap, right? It's like, it was one of the more affordable beers. So, and it's easy to drink because it's a little bit like Coors Light, like a little bit more watery. So I think it just got super popular and had that, brand because they did a lot of marketing, before to like tractors, country, like, again, like what the jobs are and everything in those flyover states. Cause that's like what is available. And I'm just saying, right? Like, I mean, now that remote work is changing things, but the reality is, like, if you lived in freaking, places like Idaho or places, like, I mean, there's a lot of farming. There's a lot of like, outdoor, more jobs, manufacturing jobs. But anyway, I mean, it got popular and then they grew up on that. Like their family drank Bud Light and stuff. So it's an acquired taste that you're used to.
Yeah. And this is another reason why this whole campaign was such a bad idea. They alienated their base. Like their base is
100%. And I thought that was, I mean, I don't know. I just think that everybody coming in with these, like, look, being in HR, the wave in the past year or two, like of everyone wanting diversity and inclusion trainings, these other items, like, I mean, which is great. I mean, I think that like, if you have the right trainings, it's wonderful, but I don't know how much I agree with like online trainings. I mean, look at the online sexual harassment trainings that are mandated. Like they're so obvious and dumb. Like you're just clicking through. I mean, the real thing to make change is to like be together, to like have offsites together, right? Like doing like going camping or something. So people like we're social beings, right? Like communicate and like get to know the other person. But it was, again, got taken advantage of a huge industry, and some people probably got hired as marketing interns out of like the Harvards of the world, and they were like, we should make this huge welcoming other campaign. But sometimes it's just good to stay in your lane, like I mean, I don't know why this became such a bad thing. Like, it's okay. That's, like, is everybody a deadhead, right? Like, no, but that doesn't.
No, but they should be.
I'm just saying, like, it's okay. It's okay for people to like different types of music, but now it's not okay for like certain products to just gear towards certain like locations or just have their own base. I just, if anything, I saw in revenue, like some of the stuff we talked about, I'm like, no, let's just double down on what's working so it works even better. Like, don't spread yourself too thin trying to find sometimes new avenues if you do have things that are actually super profitable for you. Because maybe if you put more energy into that, obviously you already get ROI. So like, at least it's more of a guarantee.
I mean, they were wildly successful as a frat boy flyover state beer. That's not going to change. You've been around for 200 years. Just fucking embrace it. Just get really, you know what I mean?
I mean, I'll say I drink a lot of Bud Light in my college days.
Me too. That is my shitty beer of choice.
Keystone was what we could afford in college.
Well, if I was paying for it, like let me rephrase it. If I was paying for it, I drink a lot of Milwaukee's Best.
Yeah, exactly.
Other people were paying for it, Bud Light was all night. Yeah,
but you know what? So this is obviously going to be studied as one of the worst marketing campaigns of all time, but it's so bad. So the marketing VP, Alyssa Heidensteichel, whatever the fuck her name is. So she has a BA in English literature from Harvard. This is who they put in front of in charge of Bud Light marketing. All right, BA in literature at Harvard. They're paying her $400.
What did I say too? I go to people like Harvard saying that they want to change the culture. Yeah. Yeah.
So they're paying her $450. They go to the spokes lady. They were giving her $50,000 to $80,000 a post. Okay, so every time Dylan Mullaney would post, it's $50,000 to $80,000. After this whole thing went down, their valuation went down by 30 million. Sales were down by 30%, and revenue was down by 25%. You could not have fucked this up worse if you tried to fuck this up.
But I hope that's a good message to everybody else. Like, just like, and it's okay to be inclusive, but just don't try to like alienate the brand that's been like obviously your go-to the whole time. Like that was a dumb move, but
Yeah.
I don't know. They just went too far. I think that they could have had her involved in a campaign or something, but like to try to force a message on people from such a wide like stage is just never accepted well, no matter what the message is. I mean, it could literally be peace, love, and harmony, but like, you know, there are a lot of crazy personalities out there.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Everybody. So after the Kaepernick thing, Kaepernick made all the sense of the world. It was a bunch of controversy, but it appealed to their base. Like Nike's base are Kaepernick fans at large, right?
Yeah.
Bud Light drinkers are not Dylan Mulvaney fans. So you alienated your core. You cannot do that.
Yeah,
controversial. Like Trump was a classic example. Controversial as fuck, but he never alienates his base. And even if he does, they move and they,
Kaepernick too, though. Like you're talking about American football, right? Which is like, there's every single different type of like individual that still, you know, loves that game.
It's the biggest sport.
Bud Light and you guys are like, you know, everybody knew the target demographic for that. So that was also
no one was confused about who drinks Bud Light. Listen, I'm a huge fan of the gays. Gays love me. We're all full of soul. I've been to plenty of parties where there's a bunch of gay guys. You never see Bud Light. You know what I mean? It's all fancy drinks, which is how it should be. But
it
they're
depends.
not.
I mean, so it depends though. If you're floating down the river, right? Because I float a lot and do that. I mean, it does. There's a lot of different gay pride and there's a lot of different inclusion, and everybody on that river is drinking Bud Light or Coors Light because you got to drink something that's cold and light, you know, like and easy to drink. Like
you know, drinking Guinness, right?
It depends on the area.
Yeah, I like to hit the river and have a nice stout. Oh, it's the best.
For the record, I hate IPAs. In case anyone was wondering,
that is very.
Like that much either.
You're a white male in your 40s. You are not allowed to hate IPAs.
I'm surprised Jennifer's still watching. I thought.
Yeah, Jen is still watching after Eric's comment on homeschooling. Oh,
I have a base of one person.
Homeschooling.
What do I have against homeschooling?
No, I didn't even hear what you said.
Oh, have you ever met a homeschooled kid? They're fucking weird.
I have. Not all of them, though. I guess
they're like feral animals. Even on the Duggar show, the two homeschool kid goes, "Oh, we can pick out a homeschool kid out of a crowd." Of course you can. So can I. You're all fucking strange. Sorry.
You're not making it any better, but yeah.
I don't think anyone can ever say all, but I do think that the point is that it depends on how much they had a community neighborhood. Like, do you remember when you were little and everyone would go knock and be like, "Oh, can you come out and play?" And like everybody was in the street. Everything. I mean, now again, like you hear that joke. If someone knocks on the door, you're like, "Who the is at the door?"
You're like, check the ring. Are the cameras on? Who's here?
Totally different.
Yeah.
So neighborhoods are different. I think if you had a lot of neighborhood community, like, because if you're just talking about people being socialized, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Now, of course, like it depends on who's teaching them from an educational standpoint, but I know one of my friends was homeschooled, and I mean, one of her parents was like a college professor and the other one was a surgeon. I mean, and she's fucking crazy smart, but she was also like put into a whole bunch of those like after school like activity programs. So she literally did that 4 times a week, and then always, you know, was always at summer camp. So like, you know what I mean? That she didn't run into those social problems.
Yeah. Well, Jenny Winnie's daughter went to up till 6th grade. So there's hope there. It's like if you were raised by humans until you were in 6th grade and then sent off to the wolves, you'd probably still be pretty human. But if you were raised by wolves the whole time, i.e. homeschool, you're going to be feral.
You're talking about being socialized, but agree.
That's exactly right. And here's the thing about the neighborhoods. You know why we never played with the homeschool kids? Because they were fucking weird. Nobody ever knocked on their door. Why do you want to play with them? They're strange.
Well, this is the same thing with animals, though, right? Like I hear some people are like, "Oh, my dogs don't get along," or this, or I'm like, but that's most likely because when they were especially younger, if you don't socialize the dogs, right? Like when they're young, then they are aggressive. But like, that's why it's important to bring them to dog parks is when, you know, you get them and everything and try to socialize them as much as possible, because that's the easiest time, obviously, but that is the same issue.
You're exactly right. Homeschooled children they bite and you gotta get them on.
You must have had some pretty horrible.
I feel like you had some ex-girlfriend that like slept with your best friend that was homeschooled.
I wish I had a reasonable explanation. I just don't like them from a distance. I tell you, I had one kid on my football team in high school. He was homeschooled and he was fucking weird as shit. Anyway, now that we've covered the news, we have the PEO Queen 15 minutes. So, Rodney, you want to take the? You want to do a line?
Yeah,
you have a big announcement, right?
Yeah, well, now Cassandra is now with us at Dinsmore, so congratulations.
Very exciting. I know that still said Aspen.
Yeah.
I mean, Aspen's still a great. I mean, honestly, it's still a great PEO. Like the service model, the people that work there are so impressive, and I, have a lot of PEO experience from like being with TriNet before they were even went public to growing with them all the way. Venture, that was kind of a newer PEO in the market, but privately held. Seeing that entire infrastructure setup build. And then Aspen is like a boutique, one that really highlights to like very high touch service level. So I've like seen them, all the differences, but that's what actually makes me so perfect for the role. I mean, like I pride myself, and I think the reason I have so many like friends in my own industry, right, even though they worked at other competitors, which you can see from LinkedIn, is because I pride myself on being very ethical, and it feels nice to be able to come into the broker world and know that I'm going to choose, select the PEOs that are actually the best fit for what someone's looking for. And like, nobody knows the tricks of the trade in terms of the contract terms, like all of that as well as I do. And I know that I can negotiate that. Rodney's actually letting me choose like the reps that we are going to be working with, because I know the best reps at the each PEO, and I know the ones that are going to do the right thing, but be able to handle the implementation, be able to make sure that they're me's, in there. So I'm excited. I think one of the reasons I was so excited to join Dinsmore especially is because, there's a handful of OG, there's a lot of PO brokers, but there's only a handful of OG ones like that started this back in the day. Basically, you can go to the front page of PO brokers and you'll see who those main ones are, but because they're always there. But those ones, the people that work there that people are engaging with, they've never even worked at PEOs. Most of them. I mean, like they don't, they're spreadsheeting to the point where they don't even know what questions or terms to ask about the contract. And I mean, so they might take the work of, getting all of your quotes for you off your plate. But if they don't know like what, the true differentiators between them are after they know what your needs are, and they don't know like how to make sure you get the best deal in the comment, like in your contract and all of that, like that's not really doing a full consulting job. And how could they know? Like, again, 99% of them have never worked at a PEO. If they did, maybe it was for like a year or two and they weren't successful. They've never been in management levels. They've never known the infrastructure of how it works. So it's just, it's hard to call them consultants. So I feel like we bring something that Rodney did different. As he always had Barb, who's also on the team, but I mean, she's sold her own PEO. She's worked as a PEO rep. She's been a CEO, like she's been doing it for over 30 years. And that's a huge, huge differentiator that, people should know about and be aware. So you're actually, do you hire some random person that just graduated school that doesn't even really know what the definition of PEO and ASO is to consult you? Or is there a reason that you go to like the actual professionals that have done that their entire career to get consulting on? So I'm excited. It's like I can now, and I can also work so much with my old PEO friends that I've known for the industry. I've been doing it for over a decade. And it's nice. So now I get to kind of reconnect with like everybody that I know that like has worked in the industry across the board. Whereas before we always tried to stay in touch, but we were technically competitors.
Is Rod the PEO god, one of the OGs, or are you one of the new?
He is one of the OGs. Honestly, that's why people have always asked me why I haven't become a PEO broker. And I was like, because the thought of trying to compete with these guys that own it's like trying to start yourself as like, an insurance carrier or something, right? Like, it's so hard because people already own that industry.
You're making my point. What kind of weirdo kids know about PEO?
Honestly,
we talk a lot about PEO
more about insurance and like, because that runs our world. One of the nice things about learning what I did is I actually started, my first job really was at Yelp when we were much smaller. Like we had, like just a floor or two, out of I was in the San Francisco office. We had one floor or two out of the Arizona one, but it was, people knew each other, right? That's when Yelp actually used TriNet, which is the first PEO I worked at in my career. But they obviously got a huge amount of funding and they transferred off, right? Because they outgrew the PEO. But that's actually how I got recruited into it. And one of the cool things about being so knowledgeable in this is like, I can walk into any business and I literally know like what workers' comp codes they are, like what probably benefit plans are, like what they could, like I could literally understand more of the infrastructure of what their needs are. So it is nice because it's a skill set that you can take with you forever. I mean, not only you also learn about every different industry. You see like what average pay is like, right, within every single different type of industry, like what the largest line items are for the CEOs in different types of industries. So it's definitely, that may not be as entertaining to everyone, but it is incredibly useful information that you'll take with you for the rest of your life.
I think it's entertaining to nerds. We are nerds.
Yeah. Even if it was just nerds, it's information that anyone that runs a business, like ultimately
you have to know. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to know.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing I would say too, I think it's interesting about PEO, now that you mention it and I think about it, is that you see so many different businesses. And one of the things that I think has been invaluable and will continue to be invaluable is that we know what, so if someone comes to us, for example, a lot of hedge funds will come to us and say, I need PEO or whatnot. We know what your competitors and your peers are doing. So we can advise them these are the plans they're offering. These are the, we obviously don't tell them who they are, but we have an understanding of what different various industries, like we know what a nonprofit in New York City would offer for their benefits and the contributions and so forth. So that's an advantage that we have as well.
Yes, because all the benchmark data people can buy, even if you get it from like, I mean, like the big hubs and like NFPs and Kaiser, like they put out benchmark data, but it's like, it's talking about like the difference of like a national full average. Like even if you try to narrow it down, like, but Rodney and I know actually like what the ones at this size with this level in New York are doing, right? Like what the ones at this size at this level in Florida are doing, right? Like you actually have narrowed down that those are probably their exact competitors, like being able to actually advise them, like because who are you poaching from, right? Like obviously we can't say names, but it's like when I present, like this is my recommendation if you want to actually be competitive in your exact space, because that's one of the questions I ask is, are you hiring remotely? Or do you want to hire where your HQ, or like where are you targeting your hires at? Because that makes a big difference, because then I know who their competition is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Robin, you had some questions. I asked you.
Yeah, I do. So it's not specifically about PEO. It's more about sales in general. And I think all of us combined probably have like a sales experience of 50 plus years. So one question I wanted to ask Cassandra was, what do you think are some of the most important soft skills to have when you're thinking about entering sales? And what's probably the one skill that is non-negotiable that you need to have?
Before you answer that, can you answer what PEO is?
Professional employer organization. Yeah. Same term, but yeah.
Jenna, I didn't know either. So thank you for that.
It's a one-stop shop for everything HR. But yeah. So good question. I honestly think that the first thing that people need, you can't be shy, right? Like this is not a profession for somebody that's shy, because now I don't want people to be confused with that and analytical, because the reality, it depends. Obviously it's hard because it depends obviously on the type of sale you're in. Like I did advertising sales, and honestly, I mean, it was hard to sell Yelp, because honestly, business owners kind of hated it, right? They couldn't really control the reviews. I don't care what anyone else out there says. You can't purchase to get rid of your negative reviews. Trust me, a freaking plastic surgeon when I was like 22 years old offered me like 30. I would have took that in a heartbeat. It's not possible. But there, if you're in like, those type of sales, like especially more junior sales, which is honestly the role that you're going to get more so usually if you are going into sales for the first time, that's, you memorize a script, but you really have to say it in your own words. You got to be personable. You got to get, people to like you. Once you have that, personable, you can get people to like you. You got to study. You got to be strategic. You have to know your product, right? Like understand like how, everything works. And with PEO, I mean, it's hard because that's obviously my experience, but I didn't know how to even read my medical plan when I started this at the end of 2012. Like I was, I had to learn, but then I realized that I would either have to learn all of this or, this wasn't going to be the job for me. So I started with flashcards, and what I would do is I would write just certain terms that I heard and stuff. And then I'd write the answer on the back, but I'd leave stuff underneath. So as I finally nailed those things, I could start adding little things after that. Another important thing I think no one does, is, these, like, I see people taking notes all the time. Okay. When we're talking to clients or taking notes, and I'm thinking to myself, how are you going to go back and find those notes? Flip through your whole notebook the whole time as you're in the middle of a conversation with them because they called you, like you're going to be able to organize it. So I, got custom made notebooks that are all alphabetized. So when I know that I need to go to a topic, I have a topic one and a client one, I can actually just flip to what I know, a good junior example would be like EPLI or something, right? I can just flip to E and I know that I can find it a lot faster. So you have to also organize yourself, but
that's smart. That's very smart.
Yeah. And I mean, you gotta get a good mentor. And let me tell you something, writing a nice email to the top rep at the company is nice. And some people are, and I'm like, a lot of people know that I've mentored people, but when you're really the number one rep, like you just don't have time to sit there and help every single person. So the smartest thing to do is to get a deal. Doesn't matter what size, hustle to get in, to get a meeting and bring that to the top rep. Bring a deal to them and they will help you all the rest of the way because they respect that, so you do need mentorship. But yeah, I mean, you just got to also then know your trade. And that's where my original comment of, not analytical is what I meant, is because there can be people that are not personality A's whatsoever, but they are so knowledgeable. They will get brought in on deals and they will close deals because people want to go with the person that they trust, really understand and knows their products, especially in like SaaS and those things, right? Like you got to understand who you're talking to and be able to speak that language because you won't be able to fake it. I mean, you cannot fake it when you're talking to someone that knows. And then lastly,
I think in this business too, you can't fake it. Like I was saying, PEO, like you have to know what you're talking about.
Kind of like when I was telling you about the difference between hiring like a young rep at ADP or Paychecks just to sell payroll, right? Like those, it's kind of like the pharmaceutical industry, like very attractive, very sweet, but like that's because they don't really need to know anything other than like, hey, this is a payroll thing because people switch around their payroll a little bit. This has nothing to do with their benefits. It has nothing to do with the infrastructure things that are the biggest line items, right? And these are big corporate companies are searching for, right? They're just processing that payroll. That is not the case for PEO. Like you're handling the entire infrastructure of everything, and you got to know what you're doing. But the last thing I'd say for junior reps is when I meant don't be shy, like you have to build your own ecosystem, and that means don't go to events with a colleague. Like you need to be able to show up to the events on your own and approach people, and you need to be able to talk to them. And the biggest piece of advice I'd give is there's always someone in that room that knows someone that would be a great partner for you. One of the biggest partners that I ever made in my career for referral partners was I was at an event, and how many times did you realize you're talking to someone at an event and like this person and you would never have anything in common to really help each other out on?
Oh yeah.
It's a dumb move to just sit there and walk away if you're in the conversation. I asked this guy, he planned events for Google's in Ireland. Okay. Do you think I'm going to be able to find something for help on PEO? But I asked him, since obviously he got that job somehow, he must have went up the ranks of enterprise. But I asked him, I go, if you were me, like in my position, like, highly competitive field and looking for companies that are, more small businesses that I could help, like save money on healthcare, like who would be the first person that you would call in your network? And he thought, and then he told me, and I followed up with him for an intro to promise. And it's not a big deal for him. He introed right over. That guy became one of my biggest referral sources. And most people would have just walked away from that. So always try to remember that everybody knows somebody that can help you. And again, don't go to the events with someone else, or you're huddled in the corner, or you're stuck to your colleague the whole time. Like you got to be able to show up to those events, even when you're tired in the beginning. You got to build that ecosystem, because the faster you build it, the quicker you get to your round table of being able to survive on your own completely with your book.
We only have a couple minutes left, but can I ask a question?
Sure.
When did you become the PEO queen? Did you have to kill the previous queen? How does that? Did she have to die? How's the hierarchy with?
That's funny. It takes a long time to get good in PEO. I might have been fastest rookie. You can do these things, but to catch up to the very top, number 1 or 1%, especially at the TriNets or some of those ventures of the world, because there is thousands of reps, right? A lot of competition.
It's fierce competition, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it takes, in my opinion, it takes 2 years to get decent. Again, depending on how much you're hustling, but you know, on your 3rd to 4th year, you can start to get really good. You know, I mean, that's where if you did the right things in place, like you really succeed. Yeah. And after I started winning, you know, in that top 1% every single time, you know, trying and stuff, I was the only female. So I literally have a photo with me and John Turner and like Burkow and all of them. And it's 7 guys and me in the middle in a red dress. Oh. And it was honestly the norm. Like it was, you know, shout out to Maya. Like she was one of the other top female that would finally like be up there on the stage with me. And then when we bought SOI, it was like Lori Howard, but that was it. I mean, it's a male dominated world. So it was kind of easy to a little bit get that title when I became that good, because there wasn't any other females up on that stage. I don't know if it's a hiring problem or what it is, but we definitely should have more females in the PEO world.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And you're the first royalty we've had on this show. So it's nice.
It's a stupid nickname, and then I like went with it. So
all right. Well, this is it. This is 11. We did the hour. Not bad, huh?
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good show. We're going to start a GoFundMe for the cocaine hippos. So we'll have that information at the bottom of this video.
If anything, you should do it for the homeschooled kids so they can have more extracurricular activities.
It's definitely a bigger problem. I can tell you that much. All right. Bye, America.
Bye.